Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks. I'm at the Dice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by
Steve.
Madly.
Mark.
and we just finished playing Maracaibo, which is Alexander Pfister's latest game. And it's, as you can see here, you're in the Caribbean and you're sailing around. Everyone starts the game in Havana, and you can see these numbered spots. Essentially, on your turn, you can move up to 7 spaces, and it's completely up to you. So maybe I decided to go 1, 2, 3. You kind of follows the arrows around on the numbers, and you can do actions on these different spaces. But you keep going, sort of taking turns moving around, until you've managed to get all the way around back to the end. And then once somebody gets back to the end, that kind of triggers the end of the round. And then no matter where you are, everyone then kind of shoots back up to Havana, some sort of end of round upkeep that you do, and you get income and things. And then you do the thing again. And you play over 4 rounds. You're going to be sailing around the Caribbean 4 times, trying to get as many points as you can. And let me try and explain some of these actions. So, for example, if you go to a city, which is the big circles, then you can hand in goods on cards. Now, this is, like many of his games, a multi-use card game. So here's an example of my hand of cards here. But the first thing we're going to look at is the thing on the left here. At the top is the goods. So this is tobacco, and you can see also there's sugar in this card. But if you hand in an appropriate good at a location, so you see Santiago requires tobacco here, but at Santo Domingo, they require corn. So if you have the card, you can discard it. So if I did have a corn card, you discard the card, and then you get to take one of your guys off and put it on the location. Now this is quite important. This is your ship as you're sailing around here, and at the start of the game each of these little yellow circles is covered with 2 of these brown discs, and whenever you get to I hand a good in here, you can take a good off from your ship somewhere and kind of upgrade it. So for example, at the start of the game these 2 are here, and I remove the first one when I get to put a good out somewhere, and it goes on there. And then later on in the game, if I remove the second one, that kind of triggers this, and this makes my ship better. You're like upgrading your ship as you get these brown things off. So at the start of the game, I have a hand limit of 4, but because I was able to remove these 2, I now have a hand limit of 6. And there's a whole pile of different ways you can sort of upgrade your abilities as you go through the game. So that's an important part of the game. And then typically you're going to get some kind of action as well. So next to this is the explore action, and at the bottom here there's a big kind of track through the jungle. You start up here, and when you get explore actions, you're moving your guys through the jungle. So if you got an explore of 2, you get to move 2 spaces. So this guy could go 1, 2 for example, and get 5 coins. You get what you land on, not what you hop over. So trying to decide how far to go is quite important. There are some bonuses here. For example, when you go past this point, the first person's getting more points. You want to do that. You can get quite a lot of points. This is the VP symbol here as you get to the end of the track. And whoever gets to the right to the end first gets a big pile of points here. So you want to kind of go up this track, taking that exploration whenever you can, because you can get money, you can get swords. Your ship has a certain sort of fighting strength here, which is going to be important. I'll explain fighting in a bit. And obviously, all important points. So that's a couple of the kinds of actions you can take. Another kind of action here when you stop at a place is you can do a quest. And now again, this is also looking at your cards. As well as having goods at the top there, underneath you can see I've got telescopes or parsley or some kind of vegetable there. But you can hand in cards to complete quests. So this requires 2 telescopes. I take 2 cards with telescopes on and I discard them. And then I get to complete this quest. And this is going to get me a certain number of points depending on how many compasses I've got. So everyone starts with 1 compass. It's possible you're going to build up a tableau of cards as you go through the game, but you can get extra compasses. I think I've got someone, there we go, I got a compass there. So that gives you points for compasses, and then you get some extra money as well. So that's another action you can take. You can do a quest. Another action you can take is like a village action. So you can just go to any spot at all, like if you go to one of the small circles here, and depending on how far you moved, you can take a certain number of these village actions. So if you only move 1 space, you get 1 village action. But if you move 4 or more spaces, you get 2 village actions. Now, village actions, you can just get money. Money's quite tight in this game, so that is not bad. You can discard your cards to get a bit more money. Or typically what you're going to be doing is you're buying cards. And that's the last thing you do with the cards in your hand. You can see there's a cost at the top left here. You can spend that to sort of put the card in your tableau, and then typically it gives you some kind of special ability. So for example, this pioneer here, whenever I did the exploring, the thing through the jungle, I get to move 1 extra space. And also, this is going to give me a bit of income. So I get 2 coins. You remember I said every time you go around the Caribbean, there's a bit of upkeep and we do income. Depending on where you are on this track, then you're going to get more and more money. So at the end of the game here, I was getting sort of 22, 24 coins every round, which is quite nice. And cards are one way you can increase the number of coins you get in the income phase. You can also play cards to get you points. You can see this is getting me points at the end of every round, depending on certain tokens. So these tokens are quite important. You play the cards to get the token, so this gets me an anchor token. This one gets me the tools token, but then other cards will trigger off them. So this gets me 4 points if I have a tools token, and 2 points if I have a crown token. Again, this is income, so you're getting those points every round. So that's quite important. Obviously, a lot of point income means you can score a lot of points. So those are the village actions. It's possible to add extra village actions. As you upgrade your board, for example, you can upgrade your board here and get extra village actions. I had an action I was using here where I can discard some cards to get money and more points. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a lot of different options here in terms of what you can do. The final main thing you can do then is fight. Some locations here let you fight, and that's what these 3 tracks are here for. This represents the English, the Spanish and the French navies that are sailing around. And you draw one of these tokens and you decide whose side you're going to fight on. You can fight on, as I say, the French, the Spanish or the English, and depending on who you pick, you're going to get a certain number of swords. So if we decide to go with the Spanish here, you'd get 4 swords, and you can spend those to do these kind of combat actions. So if you spend 2 swords, you get to move up 1 on an appropriate track. So you could kind of go up on the Spanish track if you're fighting with the Spanish, and you want to be up on the track because at the end of the game, you can see there's multipliers here. If you get to this point, you're going to get 5 times the number of points visible here. How do you get more points visible here? Well, one of these actions here, you can see if you spend 4 or 6, then you can put one of their cubes out on the board. They kind of conquer the location. So if you're fighting for the Spanish and you had enough swords, you could take this and put it wherever you are and kind of conquer the location potentially. Sometimes they'll go on these flags, which will get you extra stuff as well. But as you're pulling these cubes off, you can see it's going to be worth more points times the multiplier. So an awful lot going on there. But essentially it's obviously most points wins, and you just keep taking the actions until, as I say, you've gone around 4 times. That triggers a bit of end game scoring. There's some special buildings that give you a lot of points at the end for certain things, and most points wins. What do we think?
Yeah, it's nothing new here. There's a combination of some very good games. So I think it reminds me most of Great Western Trail, another one of his games. There's also a bit of Francis Drake and a bit of Mombasa in there, and there's lots of things there. So there's no new mechanics here, but what they're doing, they're integrated very well. There's loads of things to do in the game, and pretty much whatever you decide to do, whatever you're doing, there are ways to do it better. You can improve your ship, you can buy people, you can get stuff on the board, you can do other stuff that makes you more efficient at doing so. So there's no set number of turns in the game, and it can be raced ahead. I tried the strategy of improving my victory point income and then trying to end the game quickly. I'm glad that strategy doesn't work. It's probably not a strategy I want to continue to play against in this game. I got absolutely hammered by Mark, who made a better engine than me and scored tons of points. That dilemma, because you can never go backwards, about getting to a spot and doing an action. Some of the spots, some of the things go when you get to the spot. So that dilemma: do I go slowly? Do I go slowly and do as many actions as I can, or do I get to those spots first and take the better actions, or take the action that I can only get if I go there first, or potentially first or second? So you've got all these little dilemmas. When you see someone on the very first round, someone else got to the end early, I'm like, I kind of wanted 2 or 3 more goes. I'm only going to get 1 more go. And so when you see that kind of dilemma, you can't go so slow that you're hoping to get those actions, because invariably you won't, especially in a 4-player game. Someone else is probably going to decide, yeah, I've done all I can, I've got no more money, I'll just get to the end of the game, or I'll just get those 3 extra points for ending the round early. There's loads of interesting decisions here. I had no engine to speak of apart from a points engine, so I'd like to play it again where maybe I have a bit more choice on what I have to do on the turn, because I had very little money and all my money went to just buying cards that scored me points.
Madly?
So, as someone who hasn't played a lot of games that have many things and a lot of things going on, the amount of rules was kind of overwhelming in the beginning. But as we started playing, I think by the end of the game, I really got the hang of it. So, yeah, it's a really nice game.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, somebody did describe this as Pfister's greatest hits to me, and I can kind of see that. I do think it's like, I like the best bit of Mombasa is the share system, which this kind of replicates the attacking system. Albeit I do slightly prefer Mombasa in the fact that things swap over. So if I lose an area, it's worse for me. It's better for me and worse for somebody else. I like on the shipping trap, which is the Great Western Trail bit, the fact that I can drop people off who act like the buildings in that. So if I visit them later, I get a good bonus from it. That's good for me. And I like the travelling through the jungle and the exploration part of that. It's all very solid and very good, but I also think it's not. My biggest issue isn't the fact that I've seen this all before, it's that I've seen him do it all before. And I'd like him, a designer, to at least try something different. Remember, it's incredibly solid, very good Euro. But it isn't, you're not going to go, wow, this is new. You're not going to have that, this is a really interesting thing as you read through the rulebook. I can see this might interact really well. Be like, oh yeah, I've seen this in here. Oh yeah, I've seen this in here. And that does detract from it a little bit from me. Maybe it loses some of the purity of those mechanisms in the game because they're now combined with other ones at the same time.
Rating?
I would give it a 7.5.
Okay. Madeline?
8.
It's not as slick as it could be because there's loads going on. It's still pretty good. 8.
Okay. I loved it. Mark's absolutely right. There is nothing new here, really. But that doesn't bother me. It's a very enjoyable experience. I love the way the different mechanisms interact with each other, and it gives you loads to think about. I mean, they're just really solid mechanisms. They've worked so well in other games. They work just as well here, I think. It is quite interactive. I was surprised at how much, in terms of like fighting for the different nations, you're competing to a certain extent. If one person is bumping up one track, you maybe want to get in on the action because you're going to benefit from the fact that they're putting so many cubes out onto the board. If you're trying to go for the quest, when someone takes the quest, it's gone. So you're kind of racing for the quest. As Steve said, it's like, do I try and take more actions and get the most of that, or do I rush ahead to steal that quest before they go for it? Because you can see they want quests. So there are sort of objective cards that everyone gets as well, which I didn't talk about. They give you a focus for the game, which I really like. But there's loads and loads to do, and I just had a blast with this one. I would be on 8.5 out of 10. All right, thanks for watching. That was Maracaibo.